Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm reviewing the ergonomic wooden crochet hooks from Laurel Hill. So Laurel Hill sent me these ergonomic crochet hooks to try and test out and see what I thought of them. So I've kind of been playing around with them, testing them out with different yarns, and in this video I wanted to give you a full, thorough review of what I think of these hooks and who I think they might work best for. So these hooks are affordable, handmade, wooden ergonomic crochet hooks. So these hooks will run from about $9 to $10 per hook, which is pretty reasonable compared to what some of the other brands that sell ergonomic wooden hooks are currently charging. The difference is that not only are these handmade and hand polished, but they're also made from sustainable recycled wood. So these hooks are actually made from scrap wood from furniture and musical instrument factories, and they're made from pieces of wood that would otherwise be burned or thrown out or destroyed in some manner. So instead, they take those smaller pieces of wood that can't be used for furniture and musical instruments, and they hand carve them and hand polish them into these beautiful hooks. So they come in several different colors, of course. These are not all the colors even. And I think as far as looks, they're very pretty hooks. And this one is actually the darkest one. It's pretty close to black. And I will put a link in the description box down below to where you can get the hooks individually. And during the month of November, they are running a sale where that you can get a variety set that includes a bunch of different sizes from each of the different shades of wood. So I will link to that down below as well if you want to go check that out. So these range as far as the available sizes. They come in sizes D to M in the US letter sizes. And right here I have an H, an I, and a J. So let's get into the review. The most important things that I look for in a hook are the hook tip, the handle, and the finish. So the finish on these hooks is perfect. As far as what I would look for in a wooden hook, the finish is perfect. They are smooth. They do not grip the yarn the way that a lot of bamboo hooks and needles do. It's a very smooth polish, and it feels to me like there is, it's not like something you can like feel, but meaning compared to the feel of just plain wood with nothing on it, it seems like there is some sort of coating, which I really appreciate because the coating is usually what does a lot of the smoothing out and making it not have too much friction on the hook. So for me, I do not like a lot of friction on my hooks because a lot of friction, like you would find like in bamboo hooks, it grips the yarn too much. And so then I can't work very quickly because the stitches do not glide as well. So the finish on these is exactly what I would want in a hook. Now the hook tip is also extremely nice. I really like the shape of these hooks. They are kind of more of an inline style hook, but they also have this little point at the top. And that point is what makes it's not a sharp point, but it's tapered enough at the top that it makes it real easy to insert the hook in and out of the stitches. And I also find that the way that this hook is cut, as far as the actual hook tip shape, it does a nice job of grabbing the yarn without splitting it or catching it on this little lip right here. Because on some of the other hooks that I've tried that are wooden hooks, sometimes this little lip right here either isn't smooth or it's shaped in such a way that it can catch on the yarn. So to kind of demonstrate the hook tip, I'm just going to do a little bit of half double crochet here with the H. And for me, I really like the distance between the hook tip and the thumb rest, which I will get to in a minute. This hook has a lovely thumb rest on it. But before we finish going over the tip shape, I want to compare it to some of the standard kind of aluminum hooks that most people are comparing a hook to when they look at the shape. So as you can see, the hook tip goes in and out of the stitches very smoothly and cleanly, and it gives a very nice smooth glide on the surface of that hook. So right here, this one is the size H, and I want to compare this to a size H Bates and Boy needle. So this one is the Boy brand. This is a tapered style hook, and as you can kind of see, it has a pointier tip on it, but it is a very narrow actual hook tip, and it doesn't widen out till the shaft down here. And also this kind of hook part at the top is rounded, but it has a little point down here where the very edge of the hook tip is. So this one is a Susan Bates inline style hook, and this has a similar notch shape to the Laurel Hill hook, which I really like, but it doesn't have as much distance right here from the inside of the notch to the actual tip of the hook. So the Laurel Hill hook has a nice notch in it, nice and deep, so that it doesn't split the yarn, it grabs the whole strand, but it also has a higher tip. It's a longer hook tip at the top right here, and it has the tapered point at the top, kind of like the Boy hook. So these are all the same size hook, and you can kind of see the difference in the shape of the hook tip between each of these hooks. So moving down the handle here, the Laurel Hill hooks also have a very nice ergonomic thumb rest. Now there are some brands currently available that make wooden ergonomic hooks that have no thumb rest. So it's just round on the front, and you can rotate the hook, whichever direction suits you. But that's not always ideal, because then you don't always have it at the proper angle as far as rotation goes to be grabbing the yarn easily. So sometimes it takes a little bit more fiddling with it to get it turned the right direction to grab the yarn. So on the Laurel Hill hooks, we have a very soft, smooth thumb rest. And when I say soft, I mean the edges of it are nice and soft. So there's not anything like with deep lines or texture on it. And this thumb rest is actually thicker for the size H hook than either one of these. So here's the thumb rest on the Laurel Hill versus the Boy, and here it is versus the Susan Bates. You can see how much thicker the thumb rest is on this hook. Now for me, I prefer not to use my thumb and index finger on the thumb rest, because to me that's the wrong angle for me to hold the hook most comfortably. So when I grasp a hook with the thumb rest on it, I usually put my thumb in the front and then my middle finger in the back, and then I will rest my index finger further up, or sometimes if it's a more difficult stitch, I'll put my index finger on top of the yarn that I have on my hook at the time. So I think the thumb rest is nice and comfortable, and it is larger than what you would normally see for a hook this size, which I appreciate. Now the handle back here is not very thick. It's definitely not anywhere near as thick as some of the other ergonomic brands, but it is still pretty comfortable to hold. And another thing that I like is that they are very clearly marked with the size. So some crochet hook brands have sizes on there that are hard to read. Sometimes they only give the size in millimeters, which for me is a little bit more difficult to remember because I'm used to using mainly the letter size. But as far as the handle goes, I think it's a pretty comfortable handle. I like the feel of the finish of the hook, and it is a nice thumb rest where you can comfortably grasp the hook without holding on to it tightly. And for me, that's one of the things that I find the most uncomfortable, is when you have to grip a hook tightly to feel like you can, control it. So with this hook, I don't feel like I have to grip it tightly, and it is very comfortable to use in the hand. So I really like almost everything about these hooks. I think they're very nice quality. I love that they're handmade and sustainable, and the hook tip shape is really great. Thumb rest is very comfortable. There's only one thing that I would personally change about these hooks, and that is the shaft right here. It's very smooth and it does allow the yarn to glide, but the shaft tapers out quite a bit to come to this thumb rest, and it tapers very gradually. So when you're crocheting on one of these hooks, if you bring the yarn past like this point right here, then the hook shaft is actually wider further up, and so that makes the stitches as far as the top of the loop wider. So I'm just going to demonstrate this real quick again with this H hook. So if you notice here, right about here, I've actually measured all of these hooks and compared them to the other metal ones, and an H hook, for example, is 5 millimeters even. And the hook itself, the shaft, is 5 millimeters up here by the tip. But as you slide it down, that loop gets stretched out. And so the actual shaft of the hook is larger than 5 millimeters. And I find it kind of impossible to make my stitch, as far as the entire stitch, right up next to the hook tip. So for me personally, this makes my stitches too loose compared to my normal typical gauge that I would get from a crochet hook of this size. So if you are a very tight crocheter, this might actually be a huge benefit to you because it does loosen up your stitches with the way that the hook tapers and makes the loop get larger as it slides along. So I'm just going to demonstrate a couple more stitches real quick. When I reach for the yarn, my loop on the top of the stitch, and when I come down here and grab more yarn, the loop at the top here is getting stretched wider than the ones at the bottom because it's sliding up that shaft, which is wider. So like I said, if you are a tight crocheter, this could be perfect for you because it does help loosen up those stitches. Now, of course, everybody's gauge and tension is different, and if you're not a tight crocheter, then you could go down a hook size, or maybe even 2 if you need it, to bring your stitches down to the normal gauge that you might crochet at with a hook of the same letter size. But that is the one and only thing that I would change about these hooks, is that the shaft is kind of wider at the bottom. So like up here where this hook is 5 millimeters, it kind of stops right about here, and then it slowly goes up to like 6.5 or closer to 7 millimeters up at the top right here, where it's coming up to that thumb rest. So even though that shaft right here of the hook is wider than I would prefer it to be, I don't really mind having to go down a hook size to get gauge when the hook is nice and comfortable and smooth to work with. It's also warm because it's not metal. Metal hooks are generally cold. Wooden hooks tend to be warmer. So I don't necessarily mind having to go down a hook size to get my normal gauge on one of these hooks, because they are still very comfortable hooks and smooth and polished, and I really like the finish on these. Like I said, the hook tip is great. So if you are in the market for an affordable wooden crochet hook that is designed to be pretty ergonomic and comfortable to work with, then this would be a great choice. But I think it would be an ideal choice, particularly for a tight crocheter. Go check out the link in the description box to shop these hooks from laurelhillonline.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out the sale that's going on during the month of November for that variety set. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you have ever tried a Laurel Hill hook in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.